Most people don't think about their liver until a doctor mentions it during a checkup, and by then, the signs of strain have often been building quietly for years. But here is something that very few people know. The hours you sleep are actually among the most important hours of the entire day for your liver, and what you eat just before you go to bed can either support the liver's overnight work or make it significantly harder. Today we're going to talk about one specific fruit that, when eaten before bed consistently, provides your liver with a set of nutritional tools that are genuinely meaningful for its long-term health. Stay with us until the end of this video, because we're going to explain the exact science behind why this fruit matters, which compound inside it is doing most of the work, and one important caution that not everyone knows about before adding this to their evening routine. Before we get to the fruit, let's spend a moment on the liver itself, because most people dramatically underestimate what this organ actually does. The liver is the largest internal organ in the human body, and it is also one of the busiest. It performs over 500 distinct functions every single day. It filters toxins and waste products from the blood, metabolizes nutrients from the food you eat, produces bile that helps digest fats, stores glucose as glycogen for energy between meals, manufactures proteins essential for blood clotting, regulates cholesterol, breaks down hormones, and processes every medication and alcohol that enters the body. What makes the liver remarkable is that it does all of this simultaneously, without stopping, for your entire lifetime. And what makes it vulnerable is that it rarely complains. Liver damage accumulates silently over years, and by the time symptoms appear, such as fatigue, abdominal discomfort, or jaundice, the damage is often already at an advanced stage. This is exactly why what you do for your liver before problems arise matters so enormously. The liver is also one of the few organs in the human body with significant regenerative capacity, meaning that under the right conditions and with the right nutritional support, it can repair itself to a remarkable degree. But this regeneration requires specific building blocks, antioxidants to neutralize the oxidative stress that accumulates during its daily detoxification work, anti-inflammatory compounds to prevent the chronic inflammation that drives liver scarring, and adequate hydration to support its fluid-dependent filtration processes. This is where diet becomes directly relevant to liver health, and this is where the fruit we're about to discuss plays a very specific and meaningful role. The fruit is grapes, and specifically dark red and purple grapes. Before this sounds too simple, let's go carefully through the exact reasons why grapes eaten before bed have a particular relevance to liver health that goes well beyond general nutrition advice. The first and most significant reason is resveratrol. Resveratrol is a polyphenol compound found primarily in the skin of dark red and purple grapes, and it is one of the most extensively studied plant compounds in nutritional science, particularly in relation to liver health. Resveratrol has demonstrated antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties in research settings that are directly relevant to how the liver functions and how it protects itself from damage. The liver, because it is constantly processing toxins, metabolic waste, and other compounds that generate free radicals, is under a continuous state of low-level oxidative stress. Over time, this oxidative stress contributes to inflammation, and inflammation, when it becomes chronic, is one of the primary drivers of liver cell damage, fatty liver disease progression, and eventually fibrosis, which is the development of scar tissue that progressively replaces healthy liver tissue. Resveratrol, by providing antioxidant support that helps neutralize free radicals and reduce inflammatory signaling in liver cells, works directly against this process. Research has explored resveratrol's role in supporting liver enzyme levels, reducing liver fat accumulation, and supporting the liver's own antioxidant defense systems, making it one of the more evidence-backed nutritional compounds in the context of liver health. The second reason grapes are particularly relevant to liver health is their quercetin content. Quercetin is another polyphenol found in grape skins, and like resveratrol, it has been studied for its anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects in liver tissue specifically. What makes quercetin additionally interesting is research suggesting it may help protect liver cells from certain types of toxin-induced damage and support the liver's detoxification pathways. The liver operates two phases of detoxification, in which harmful compounds are chemically transformed and then prepared for elimination from the body. Quercetin has been studied in relation to supporting both of these phases, which means it may help the liver do its detoxification work more effectively and with less cellular stress. The third reason involves anthocyanins, which are the pigment compounds responsible for the deep red and purple color of dark grapes. Anthocyanins belong to the flavonoid family of plant compounds, and they are among the most potent natural antioxidants found in food. In the context of liver health, anthocyanins have been studied for their potential role in reducing the oxidative damage that accumulates in liver tissue, supporting healthy inflammatory responses, and contributing to the overall antioxidant capacity of the body. Diets consistently high in anthocyanin-rich foods have been associated in research with better markers of liver health compared to diets low in these compounds, which is part of why dark berries and dark grapes appear repeatedly in nutritional recommendations for liver-supportive eating. The fourth reason is the water content and natural sugar composition of grapes. Grapes are roughly 80% water, and like all high water content foods, they contribute to the hydration that the liver needs to perform its filtration and detoxification work efficiently. The natural sugars in grapes, primarily fructose and glucose, are metabolized primarily in the liver, which is an important consideration we'll return to shortly. In a reasonable portion, the natural sugars in grapes provide a gentle, slow energy source without the rapid blood sugar spike associated with refined sugars or highly processed sweet foods. This means grapes, when eaten in an appropriate portion before bed, provide hydration and gentle fuel without placing an excessive metabolic burden on the liver overnight. Now let's talk about why the before-bed timing specifically matters for liver health. The liver actually has its own circadian rhythm, meaning its biological activity follows a daily cycle tied to the body's sleep-wake pattern. Research into the liver's circadian biology has shown that certain liver functions, including aspects of its detoxification work, fat metabolism, and cholesterol regulation, are more active during specific parts of the day and night cycle. During sleep, with the digestive system largely at rest and the body no longer processing new meals, the liver shifts toward repair and regeneration mode, working on cellular maintenance, processing hormones, and performing overnight regulatory functions. Providing the liver with a concentrated dose of antioxidant and anti-inflammatory compounds just before this overnight repair window begins is a way of timing nutritional support to align with the liver's own biological activity. It's the difference between giving a worker the tools they need before they start the job versus supplying those tools the next morning after the work is already done. There's also a substitution argument for why before-bed grape consumption specifically matters. In the hours before sleep, many people reach for snacks, desserts, or beverages that place additional burden on the liver rather than supporting it. Alcohol is processed almost entirely by the liver and generates significant oxidative stress in liver tissue, making evening alcohol consumption particularly counterproductive for liver health. Sugary desserts, processed snacks, and refined carbohydrates eaten late in the day contribute to blood sugar and insulin spikes that the liver must manage at a time when it would otherwise be focusing on repair rather than active metabolism. Replacing these evening choices with a portion of dark grapes means the liver ends the day with antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds instead of additional metabolic workload, and that difference, repeated consistently over months and years, is where meaningful long-term benefit accumulates. This brings us to the important caution mentioned at the beginning of this video, and it is one that genuinely matters for a specific group of people. Grapes contain natural fructose, and while the amount in a reasonable serving of whole grapes is metabolized differently and more slowly than the fructose in processed foods or fruit juices, people who already have fatty liver disease, insulin resistance, or conditions that make them sensitive to dietary fructose should approach grape consumption with awareness rather than simply eating large quantities. Fructose is metabolized almost exclusively in the liver, and in excessive amounts, particularly from processed sources, it can contribute to fat accumulation in liver tissue. For most healthy adults, a portion of roughly 1 to 1.5 cups of whole dark grapes before bed is a reasonable amount that provides the antioxidant and anti-inflammatory benefits without an excessive fructose load. However, anyone with diagnosed liver conditions, metabolic syndrome, or significant insulin resistance should discuss their dietary choices, including fruit consumption, with their doctor or a registered dietitian rather than making changes based solely on general information. It's also worth discussing how to choose grapes for the maximum nutritional benefit. Dark red, purple, and black grapes have significantly higher concentrations of resveratrol, quercetin, and anthocyanins than green or white grapes, because these compounds are concentrated in the darker skin pigments. Whole grapes are nutritionally superior to grape juice for liver health purposes, because juicing removes the fiber that slows sugar absorption and significantly concentrates the natural sugars while removing much of the beneficial fiber and some of the polyphenol that adhere to pulp and skin. Red wine, while containing resveratrol, obviously comes with the substantial downside of alcohol, which is directly harmful to liver tissue and cancels out the potential benefit of any polyphenol present. Whole, fresh, dark grapes eaten as a fruit are the specific form being discussed here. Let's go a little deeper into why the liver's overnight repair cycle is so important and so often overlooked in everyday health conversations. Most people think of sleep primarily as rest for the brain and muscles, which it certainly is, but the liver uses the overnight period in a very specific and active way. During waking hours, the liver is in a state of continuous reactive processing. It's receiving a constant stream of nutrients from digestion, filtering medications, processing hormones, managing blood sugar, and dealing with whatever environmental exposures, food additives, or metabolic byproducts have accumulated during the day. During sleep, this reactive load drops significantly because digestion has largely completed, no new food or drink is being consumed, and the body's overall metabolic rate has slowed. This quieter period is when the liver can dedicate more of its resources towards cellular repair, regenerating damaged liver cells, processing the backlog of metabolic waste that may not have been fully cleared during the day, and restoring the antioxidant enzyme systems it depleted during its daytime work. Providing high-quality antioxidant and anti-inflammatory support just before this window opens is one of the most strategically timed nutritional interventions you can make for liver health. It's also worth understanding how chronic inflammation becomes the central mechanism through which the liver gets damaged over time, because this explains why anti-inflammatory foods like dark grapes matter so much in the long run. When the liver is repeatedly exposed to excess fat, alcohol, processed foods, environmental toxins, or high blood sugar, it develops a state of low-grade chronic inflammation. This inflammation activates liver cells called stellate cells, which in response begin producing collagen and fibrous tissue. Over time, as this process continues, the fibrous tissue accumulates and progressively replaces healthy, functional liver tissue. This is the process of fibrosis, and in its advanced form it becomes cirrhosis, where so much normal liver tissue has been replaced by scar tissue that the liver can no longer perform its essential functions adequately. The critical point is that this process happens gradually over many years and is largely reversible in its earlier stages if the underlying inflammatory drivers are reduced. Anti-inflammatory dietary compounds like resveratrol, quercetin, and anthocyanins found in dark grapes work against this process at a fundamental level, not by curing existing fibrosis, but by reducing the inflammatory signaling that drives the process in the first place. The gut-liver connection is another dimension worth discussing, because it adds a layer of explanation for why consistent dietary habits matter so profoundly for liver health. The liver receives the majority of its blood supply directly from the digestive system through a vessel called the portal vein. This means that everything absorbed from the gut, nutrients, bacterial compounds, food additives, and inflammatory signals, travels directly to the liver before reaching general circulation. When the gut microbiome, the community of bacteria living in the digestive tract, is diverse and healthy, the liver receives a relatively clean blood supply and deals with manageable levels of bacterial byproducts. When the gut microbiome is disrupted by a diet high in processed foods, low in fiber, or lacking in fermentable plant compounds, the liver is exposed to higher levels of inflammatory signals from the gut that contribute to its chronic inflammatory burden. Dark grapes, with their polyphenol content that research suggests can support beneficial gut bacteria, thus contribute to liver health not just directly through antioxidant compounds reaching liver tissue, but also indirectly by supporting a healthier gut environment that generates less inflammatory load for the liver to deal with. One more angle worth exploring is the role of the liver in managing the body's inflammatory response more broadly. The liver produces many of the proteins that regulate inflammation throughout the body, including C-reactive protein, which doctors measure as a marker of systemic inflammation. When the liver itself is under inflammatory stress, its ability to regulate inflammation elsewhere in the body becomes compromised, which contributes to the systemic inflammatory state associated with numerous chronic diseases. This means that supporting liver health through consistent anti-inflammatory dietary habits doesn't just benefit the liver in isolation. It has the potential to reduce the body's overall inflammatory burden in ways that benefit the cardiovascular system, the brain, the kidneys, and virtually every other organ system simultaneously. This broader perspective helps explain why the liver, despite its tendency to suffer silently, is genuinely central to the long-term health of the entire body, and why supporting it proactively through something as accessible as a consistent evening dietary habit is worth far more attention than most people give it. Let's also briefly mention some of the other dietary and lifestyle practices that support liver health, because grapes work best as part of a broader approach rather than as a standalone solution. Limiting alcohol consumption is among the most impactful steps anyone can take for liver health. Reducing intake of processed foods high in refined sugar and unhealthy fats reduces the metabolic burden on the liver significantly. Staying well hydrated throughout the day supports the liver's fluid-dependent detoxification processes. Regular physical activity helps reduce liver fat, even without weight loss. Maintaining a healthy body weight, since excess body fat, particularly around the abdomen, is directly associated with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And avoiding regular use of unnecessary medications or supplements without medical supervision, since virtually everything ingested passes through the liver for processing. Before we close, it's important to say clearly that this video is for general educational and nutritional awareness purposes only. It is not intended as medical advice, and nothing in this video should be taken as a recommendation to treat, cure, or manage any liver condition. If you have been diagnosed with any liver condition, or if you have concerns about your liver health based on symptoms or lab results, speaking with a qualified healthcare provider is always the right and necessary step. Dietary choices can support liver health in meaningful ways, but they are not a substitute for professional medical care. If this video gave you something practical and science-backed to add to your evening routine, please share it with someone whose health you care about, because this is the kind of simple, actionable information that can genuinely make a difference over time. If you found this video useful, please like it and subscribe to the channel so more content like this reaches you every week.